This is what I don't understand. If I was an astronaut and I completed the greatest achievement of mankind ever, went further than any man had ever gone before, or woman, and someone said, "Can we sit down and watch a bit of this tape together?" I would be like, "Absolutely, bro." And as that tape is playing, I would be filling in the blanks. I would be reminiscing with pride over this amazing feat. I would be wanting to, almost brag and tell him all the little things that happened off camera that you can't see, and what so and so was doing and how we got there. You know what I mean? It would be like looking back at your wedding day in 20 years later. There would be so much emotion and pride going through you to rewatch that with someone and help them understand what they're looking at a little bit more. There is not a shred of that with any of these astronauts. It is like defensive aggression, threatening them that he'll sue them and that they shouldn't have a copy of this tape. It's like, bro, what's the problem? You went to the moon, didn't you?
I can't. I would imagine it would be overwhelming. The amount of emotions would be.
It was pretty exciting, and we were, just bounding with enthusiasm. And what we were late landing, so we were supposed to. The original plan called us to land and suit up and go outside, but mission control canceled that. It said, "You guys are going to be up too late. You might make a mistake or." Too long, not wake up too late, but you're going to be awake for 20-something hours if we do the sea feed.
So they made you guys go to sleep?
Yeah, took off our suits and went to sleep.
When you actually walked out and stepped on the moon, was it exactly what you expected it to be? Or what about that experience really stood out to you?
We were the fifth landing, so we'd heard debrief four previous crews tell us what was it like.
Okay.
So we had a lot of familiarity with it, and we knew we had a flight plan. We knew what we were going to do, and so we just got to work, and it was really exciting being there. And I'm on the moon, and you're thinking those things privately. You're not broadcasting it out, but
yep.
We
like, what did it feel like to walk on the moon? Do you remember like what? I'm talking about like what did the ground feel like?
I'm on the moon. That's how it felt. Yeah, I'm on the moon.
Yo, if you're enjoying this clip, make sure you subscribe below and head on over to the main channel if you want to watch the full replay of this video. You might even be able to catch one of the streams live one time and get involved in the chat as well. All the links you need will be down below.
This guy's just got a pull string in his back. I'm on the moon.
Don't have any feel. You got a moon boot on and you got a suit boot on.
Right.
So you just feel the pressure, and it was easy to lose your balance, if you will, at 1/6 gravity. And
did you immediately see the Earth?
No, it was right overhead. So when you look up in Apollo, you're looking at the top of your helmet.
This part I found really interesting because that is a very particular answer. And the way he explains it is like, there's a lot of odd detail in that. I'm curious to know, how do you guys feel about the way he explains this? What do you think?
So we never saw the Earth.
You have to be like,
well, yeah, you could hold on to the spacecraft and lean back, and there it was. It's a half Earth up in the sky. And we had TV, so we had an antenna that like a periscope, and we could point that at the Earth. And when we got it pointed at the Earth, we flipped on the TV, and we had TV that we sent down.
He could have easily said like, yeah, we could see Earth. Like if he was talking shit, right? You could just say, yeah, we could see Earth. It was beautiful right there. But he was like, oh no, it was right up there. And like, if you think about it, when you look at the moon, if you were to go and just land on the moon, and it's like that, and you were standing on it, then it would be up, right? That actually kind of makes sense, at least to me. And I'm not an astronaut, if you didn't know, but it does kind of make logical sense that you would have to look straight up. So I don't know, just seems like a very particular answer. Although I'm sure these guys have, if this is fake, they're probably well trained with answers and details to make it seem convincing.
What happened when you guys had to come home? What was that like?
Well, we were approaching a time to go, and we tried to talk mission control into letting us stay another 2 hours, but or whatever it was, and they said, "Get inside, guys. It's time to come home." So we got inside and we got ready to lift off, but the first thing we had to do was pitch out all the backpacks. So we depressurized, opened the door, threw out the backpacks, 2 bags of trash. And
oh no, you littered on the moon?
Yeah, we big litter. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Sorry about that. But we were.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Kind of weird, littering on the moon. Like, I don't know. I feel I don't want to read into it too much. I'm trying to stay objective. I mean, it's quite clear like where my beliefs lie, but I'm trying to stay objective. But it's just, I don't know. Some of these details are just strange to me. Someone said Carl Wolf already told us why we never went to the moon. I think that's a fantastic point that should be thrown in with this discussion, right? Carl Wolf spoke at the 2001 Stephen Greer press conference and said that he saw images of structures, big structures on the dark side of the moon. And because he was some kind of like photo repair technician in the Air Force. And he saw this at NASA and was like, cool, I guess we'll hear about this on the news soon. This was in like in the 70s or the 60s, and nothing ever. And conveniently, I believe the old hit by a bus. It was one of them. It was either hit by a bus or hit by a car on his bike. You know, the classic, the old John Mack type operation.
That's one small step for man.
Look at that. Look at that nice little pan in, that little zoom in there. It's good camera work. It's great camera work from a guy who's in some giant suit. And I would assume, it being the first moon landing, the cameras back then were not small, probably not a GoPro, probably, I would say probably more than 50 times bigger than a GoPro, actually. Think about 50 GoPros stacked up. Honestly, probably more than that. Probably like 70 to 100 times bigger than a GoPro. And he's handling this on the moon in a giant, big-ass suit where he would have no sensation in his fingertips. So if you've ever tried to do anything like meticulous wearing gloves, it's extremely hard because you've got no sense of feel. So you can't quite figure out like what you're touching and where the buttons are, and like, it's not easy. And this guy is, he's got some beautiful shots here. Some cinematic zoom in. I love it.
One giant leap for mankind.
This is my favorite though. And isn't it crazy how like, what are they on the edge of the moon? This is like got the same render distance as old school RuneScape. They're either on the edge of the moon or they're in a studio.
Tony, this is so great you can't believe it. I believe it, Charlie. It's raining, John. Look at it go, would you, Charlie? You got all your steering. It's great. Oh, this is going to be some kind of different ride.
They had a GoPro strapped to the rover. It's kind of crazy that they think this is real. And we apparently went to the moon with a computer that is as powerful as a calculator. And like the way that they did it, I went into more detail about this in the video earlier in the year, but they did it with a translunar injection. Okay. Now I'll try and explain what that is and why they did it, but I explained it better in that video. They launched the rocket to dock with something that was in orbit. And this thing that was in orbit essentially aimed at the moon. And obviously this thing in orbit is moving. So it's orbiting. And so is the moon, right? Think of an archer on a boat trying to hit a bullseye that is also moving. Okay, that's what they're doing. And they basically had to aim at the moon, get all their trajectories correct, and just send it. So I guess if you missed, you're going to go past the moon. If they launched it too hard, it would crash into the moon. That's not even the craziest part, though. The craziest part is They never even tested the translunar injection with an unmanned vehicle. This, like, if you look it up, the story is they did it perfectly for the first time with a live crew. There was no test. Look it up. That in itself is ridiculous. Why would they never test that? That is just reckless and careless. And, you know, there's just so many things in the moon missions, in NASA and space travel in general, that goes wrong. Rockets blow up. All these different things happen. To do something like that without testing it and get it perfectly correct with no issues the very first time, I'm not buying it, bro. I'm not buying it.
One ignition. Right away, Houston.
Oh, dude,
Vector
this
good.
one.
We're burning
This
flat.
one's a classic.
Looks good.
Isn't that a classic? Do you know what the story is about this?
One.
Apparently, this is how they did this. They had they left a camera on the moon, apparently, and it had this is the actual story, that they had a timed tilt mechanism on this tripod, and that when they took off, one of the astronauts had to press a button, and it had like an automatic tilt to follow them as they took off. That's the actual story that they told people, and that's what apparently they did. Please.
Ignition. Right away, Houston. Vector good. We're burning flat. Roger.
And I mean, God, they timed it well. They almost kept that capsule dead center the entire shot. I mean, this is great camera work. Again, let's just watch it one more time. This is cinema. Literally, this is literally cinema.
If I climbed Mount Everest and was known for climbing Mount Everest and got an award or a medal, and I was hired at companies as their CEO for having climbed Mount Everest, and somebody came along and started saying, you didn't do it. It was filmed in a TV studio. I certainly wouldn't fly and make an airport change and stay overnight in a hotel and go to podcast to defend that I'd climbed Mount Everest. I wouldn't waste my time. So why are you here?
Me?
Yeah.
Wait,
If
I'm
you
not
walked
wasting
on
my
the moon and it's so
Me?
obvious that you walked on the moon,
yeah.
I wouldn't fly anywhere to debate somebody whether or not I walked on Mount Everest if I did. So why are you here?
I'm here to tell my story. He asked me to come and share my story. Did I walk on the moon? And I did walk on the moon. The evidence is overwhelming that we landed on the moon.
You retired a general, right? Okay. What was your security clearance?
Top secret.
Okay. So when you have a top secret, you're not allowed to tell your wife or your children, right?
What?
Whatever the
What are we talking about again?
secrets are. Whatever secrets you have as a top secret clearance, if you told your wife or your children, you would be violating your oath. Is that right?
In the military, that's true. But
Okay.
NASA did not have us swear an oath that we are lying or not lying.
I understand. But the point is, you have top secret clearance, and telling your wife or your children would be violating that oath. So your oath to the corrupt United States federal government includes lying to your wife and to your children. Now, there are 100,000 trials every year in America. 90% of the people are guilty, and yet 100,000 people raise their hand and swear that they're telling the truth. So does every Nazi war criminal. They look like benevolent grandfathers, and yet they go smiling through life and denying to the very end that they committed these crimes, which they did. Now, if you're willing to lie to your wife and to your children, why should we believe you?
Andrew says this is a weak point. Interesting. I actually think it's a decent point. Like, it doesn't necessarily prove anything, and it's not really an argument, but it's like a really good thing that I think should be considered in this debate. In the fact that, you know, these guys, the clearances these guys have, they're legally obliged to lie and and hide things from their family. There is every chance that they could just be doing that and doing their job right now. And that's why things don't seem to add up, because their points seem weak because they're not really there. And he's doing it because he's just doing his job.
Who do you think killed JFK? What's your personal opinion?
Oh, he's going full Joe Biden. He's going full Joe Biden right now. Who do you think killed JFK?
My personal opinion is I don't remember Oswald or whatever his name is. I don't remember the name.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Lee Harvey
The
Oswald.
government's position was that he acted alone and he was the sole shooter of JFK.
Yeah.
That's what you believe. Yeah. Well, 75% of Americans disagree. The gentleman's relative.
Bro was just buffering. Now, look, he is 90. He is 90 to be fair, but also to be like, oh, whatever they said on the news. Who was that? Harvey Oswald? Yeah, I think it was him. It's like, okay, well, if you believe the news, then I don't really know how much I can believe you.
Bobby Kennedy Jr. says he's 100% certain that he was murdered by the CIA because he was going to abolish them. And then a few years later, Robert McNamara, before he died, he was defense secretary during the Vietnam War. He confessed that the whole reason that the war was started, which 90% of the public was against, was they fabricated an attack by the North Vietnamese on an American ship in the Gulf of Tonkin. Even Wikipedia says it was falsified. Now, Congress passed a law called the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which led to the deaths of 3 million people, including 58,220 of their own citizens. So if they're willing to kill their own president, willing to kill 58,220 of their own citizens, I don't think they're going to have a problem faking a video image of the moon. In fact, NASA has never kept a schedule in its entire existence, except the most complicated one of all time. Somehow, they were ahead of schedule. You see that?
And it went off without a hitch, right? It just went off perfectly. Basically, the only mission to ever do that were the moon landings. And, you know, like he's talking about the Vietnam War. We've spoken about this on the channel before as well. Like, you know, the Vietnam War was, you know, this is around the era that like Michael Aquino, who we've also covered on the channel, was doing his thing. And I want to do a deep dive on him soon. But this guy was like the godfather of psychological warfare, okay? And in Vietnam, they were, you know, broadcasting voices out into like where the Vietnamese were, trying to like masquerading as like their ancestors, speaking in Vietnamese, telling them to stand down from the war, trying to project like visions of ghosts in the sky. Someone was telling me recently that they did something similar in the Philippines as well. Like there's just like, this is like the eye of the storm for when the Nazis just came over through paperclip and they were all into this weird like mental warfare stuff as well. This was the time where they were experimenting with messing with people's minds. And I think most people agree that like generally from around this era, the West overall has been on like a steady decline. It seemed like the people in charge really don't care about the people of those countries. So are these countries just being like siphoned for money, siphoned for resources, and that the people in these countries don't actually matter? They're kind of just seen as like a replaceable asset or something. That's what it kind of feels like Western society has become, right? And this is where it really kind of kicked off in this era. And I do think it feels like as the Nazis came into America through paperclip, having this almost, you know, this hype of going to the moon begin and all that is like the perfect way to kind of shine the spotlight away from all of that, away from the fact that the people who were the arch nemesis were now running the space programs, probably deeply embedded in parts of science and the government as well. the best way to shine the light away from that and just skyrocket the morale and support of the people would be to go to the moon, have this great moon mission, make America the greatest country in the world. And like this is a psychological manipulation. This is psychological warfare.
One of the main reasons for me, and I think I'm speaking for a lot of other folks when I say this, is that when it comes to the Apollo missions happened in the middle of the Cold War during the peak of government distrust. That's when we know, according to all the declassified documents by the CIA and the FBI, is that the government was lying and deceiving the public more than ever. I mean, I don't know how much they're doing now, but as far as all the documents that we have, that was the peak. That was when the president of the United States was murdered. That's when we did the Gulf of Tonkin, got into the Vietnam War. The government started doing a secret mind control program with using LSD and other drugs, and that there was the Manson family murders and all of this stuff, right? So when people look at this stuff and they're learning the history of the Cold War, and they see that the most astonishing feat of mankind ever happened right in the middle of all of that stuff, people just, I think they get taken back by it. Like, so the government was lying about all this other stuff, but the one thing they didn't lie about was the most amazing feat of mankind.
That they never did again. That they deleted all the technology to replicate. I know it's hard to swallow. I know it's hard to wrap your head around that this is true. But I think when we remove the emotion, when we strip the emotion, if we pretend that we are an alien from Zeta Reticuli that just landed on Earth and have no emotional attachment to any of this and just had all of these facts laid out to us, we would be like, this is clearly a fucking lie.
Does that make sense to you? Does that sort of logic, does that make sense? Why people would question that?
Question Apollo?
Yeah.
Where am I again? Sorry. I know he's old. I know he's old, but it is funny.
Yes, just based on all of the other strategic deception that was happening within the government, like MK Ultra, mind control experiments that were going on, the Vietnam War, the assassination of President Kennedy, the Gulf of Tonkin, all of that stuff. It was right in the middle of all of that, the Bay of Pigs, right? There was Operation Northwoods that got declassified, where the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to fly an airplane with nobody in it as a drone and blow it up as a pretext to invade Cuba.
Killing Americans. They were willing to kill Americans to fake an attack on Cuba.
This is real declassified stuff that's come out in the federal government with the Warren Commission and all of this stuff. So
the same people who would later approve the Apollo program.
So that's
you're saying we never landed on the moon?
Well, no. What the question is?
You didn't know that before you got here?
No,
Charlie,
You're a really good actor.
I really didn't know that.
Did you ever win the Academy Award for Best Actor?
I really didn't know that you believe that we lied on 6 missions that landed on the moon.
To me, this guy being a victim of MK Ultra and just speaking what he thinks he believes is actually more likely than we actually went to the moon. And that's purely just based on, like, why haven't we gone back? The time that all of this happened that we just talked about, the literal prime era of psychological operations and warfare. NASA is just randomly deleting all the technology to do the greatest achievement of mankind. Like, all of these things just make me think that it is far more likely that this guy is an MK Ultra victim or something like that than us actually going to the moon. Like, just based on those things, that feels more likely.